Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 11 of the anime series, Hibike Euphonium. And I gotta say, this episode actually kind of surprised me. Not with the outcome of that, secondary audition, primarily putting Kosaka against Kaori, as we saw. They would have to, play against each other, and it was now up to everybody else, not just Taki-sensei, but the rest of the ensemble piece that's going to be working toward this performance. Everyone has to voice their opinion, which one they think is the better, soloist. And I already had a feeling how it was going to play out, that level of it. But I was really shocked and surprised for anyone who saw my previous episode discussion video that I kind of backpedaled a little bit emotionally on how annoying the Yuko character was. I called her a B and said she was a brat in my previous discussion video, and that still stands to reason. She is still brattish, and she is a bit of a B, but I like that we get a little bit more through flashbacks and through just emotional concerns of hers, a little more depth to why she is so forcefully championing Kaori's playing the solo. This all apparently pertains to that plight in the previous term between the first years and the third years, which saw the entirety of the band ensemble, the band class, fall to pieces. Essentially, they never got to any sort of fruition. Anything that they tried to put forth, they really sucked at. I mean, going back to the beginning of the series, Kumiko is very outspoken as saying, wow, they suck, and even to explaining why Kaori is so fascinated and entranced by Asuka and what that dynamic between the two is. She looks up to Asuka, and Asuka is the only one who is like sort of plain stated, not telling her what she wants to hear. She can see through her, and I guess through maybe experience, knows where Kaori's coming from, and so there's a closeness between them, and it's like I say with Yuko, she bore witness to Kaori's going and pleading with the third years of the previous term, I will even bow out myself. If you can just come to some sort of agreement with the first years and you can all play together and all this stuff. She was willing to put herself on the line, and Yuko heard and witnessed this, and she wants to sort of do something to, be the balancing out factor. She really truly believes Kaori's dream is to play the solo and to be a musician. And, even Kaori herself has said, well, I'm not really that good enough. It's just something I have a passion for. I enjoy doing. You can enjoy a thing and not be, necessarily pitch perfect at doing that thing, as long as you get fulfillment out of it. It's not about achieving, it's not about attaining gold and everything like that. I think there's a certain level of that Kosaka needs to come to understanding in her own sort of mindset on wanting to be special and all these things. But of course, you're still kind of rooting for Kosaka as well, because she earned this. It's years of practice that she put into form and function of, playing the trumpet, not only playing it, but actually also attuning herself to this particular solo. And she is the clear, decisive, better of the two players when you hear them finally have their face-off at the tail end of this episode. I also thought it was interesting that we're getting very much closer to, from what I understand without having read the source material, the sort of Yuri, relationship dynamics between Kumiko and Kosaka. They've really tiptoed around that throughout the course of the series, and I'm not disappointed in any way, shape, or form, but I kind of wish at this point they almost have them kissing in this episode. Why not just go through with it? Why not just, if they really do love each other, they've made confessions of love to each other in the past, 2-3 episodes. It wouldn't bother me at all. I mean, they are closely knit characters. Whether you want to say friendship or something more romantic, they're supportive of each other, and I had to commend Kumiko for her approaching Kosaka at this point. And, there was a point in the episode that just shocked me. The sort of turning point for the episode where Yuko had gone to Kosaka and actually pleaded with her to bow out, to basically mess up her playing of the solo to allow for Kaori to step up and be the soloist. And that, because we see all of the sort of flashback and all of the sort of emotional energy fueling Yuko's to go and, to that length, to go to Kosaka and actually ask that of her is insane. It's kind of mind-blowing. And but we see that Kumiko has overseen this. So when she finally goes to approach Kosaka just before they're going to have their secondary audition, it's somewhat surprising to see that Kosaka is seemingly moved by Yuko's, request. And she's trying to play off Kumiko about, well, would you be upset if I lost, if, Kaori won this solo match and everything? And Kumiko stands up, and she truly, finally voices how she truly feels without any cushioning, without sort of any reservation. She says, no, you are the better player. I believe that. I'll tell everybody that. And then, of course, there's the playful banter where Kosaka's like, are you sure you want to? And she's like, well, I probably would, But then we do see the first one who stands up and claps after Kosaka has played her solo. It is Kumiko. I was really proud of her for that, for standing up for her friend and what she truly believes for a change, because a lot of the course of her journey throughout this series has been not being certain and not being willing to throw herself 100% toward any particular direction. I mean, even down to at the start, she wasn't sure she wanted to play the Euphonium. Finally, she got sidled up with it. Then she realized how much she loved it. She's been on a learning curve, realizing how much she appreciates the instrumentation, the music, the playing in the band, the ensemble, her friends, and this relationship with Kosaka has been more solidified through that learning curve. And finally, we kind of have it come to fruition with her being so supportive of Kosaka. And then, of course, Kosaka sort of does the, flipping of the hair. Well, I wasn't going to try to bow out anyway, But we have the closeness of those two characters. And, of course, finally we have this secondary audition showdown. And as I say, the clear and decisive winner is always going to be Kosaka. I really did enjoy Kaori's performance. I thought it was really good. She had perfected it. But that's just one piece, whereas Kosaka has years and years of, she can probably have the adaptability to play just about any piece and everything like that. And, for Kaori, she admitted it herself. It's more like a hobby. It's not a passion. It's not something she is aggressively seeking the same way Kosaka is. And it's kind of interesting because it's still playing on the idea of aggressive tendencies between these characters and, potentially bad blood between them. Because once, you have Kaori done with this particular performance, you have Yuko and a couple other characters clapping. Once Kosaka is done, everybody made the, O face, and they knew she was the clear, decisive winner. She played even better than Kaori did. And yet none of them would clap for her. It was so frustrating. They know she's the better player, and yet there's still this idea of competitorship. There's still this idea of, rather than picking the best performer, it's loyalty to friends and those sort of lines. And I can see it becoming very antagonistic because of that whole framework. I mean, basically, you had 2 or 3 people clapping for Kaori, and Taki Sensei at that point, he has no choice but to offer the piece to Kaori. And this is putting her on the spot. And this is kind of why there was tension between Natsuki and Yuko earlier in the episode, because she's telling Yuko, you're going to make her miserable, more miserable than she needs to be at this point. It was bad enough she didn't get picked, but now you're making her go through this all again. She's on the spot. She's in front of everybody. Everybody's choosing. And she's about to get the solo. But then even she realizes, I'm not good enough. Kosaka is the better player. And it was just sort of almost gut-wrenching that moment, because then you have Kosaka getting it, and like the looks between the characters sitting in the seats is like, wow, there's still some unspoken tension here. And how is that going to affect this ensemble and this performance yet to come, if at all? Maybe after a week's time, people will have let it go, and this is how the cookie crumbles, this is how the other foot drops. Let's just do the best we can, but there's still a chance for bad blood, and it's going to be interesting to see. I also liked in this episode, more on a positive angle, we basically see that, you know, Hoozuki and some of the other players are going to get a secondary chance. At least that's what the dialogue seems to suggest. Taki-sensei's telling them, you know, pick a piece and play it, and maybe he'll decide to actually incorporate them back into the ensemble. That is awesome. You know, if that ends up portraying out to be true, awesome. I'm all for that. I'm all for everybody having a chance to partake and spread the love of the artistry and the music and the melody and the ensemble, you know, working together, bringing that sound together, you know, as the title suggests, sound euphonium in its English translation. So, I mean, this was a really good and entrancing episode. It had me on the edge of my seat, and I was just compelled by hearing why it was Yuko had such a strong wanting to champion Kaori, and you know, how Kaori was looking at the entirety of this. It's more like a hobby. It's not really a passion. And, you know, her sort of seeking Asuka to be told the bottommost truth. I mean, even though Asuka minces her words, she still kind of comes out and says what she means. She just does it in a sing-song sort of whimsical way. You know, she's not coming out and saying, well, I think you're the better player, and, you know, Kasaka isn't. She thinks Kasaka is the better player, but I find it interesting amongst those, as I say, antagonistic, bad blood, potentially looks in the crowd. They zoom right in on Asuka when Kasaka basically takes the solo. And she knows who the better player is. She won't come clean and say, you know, just outright, but she knows it, we know it, and it just makes me wonder, you know, why has she been hand-holding Kaori all this time? Was she trying to primp her up? Was she trying to put forth this idea that, you know what, don't fool yourself into believing you can be that good? I don't know what exactly Asuka's motivations have been. But the clear, decisive winner, as I say, was chosen by the end. You know, Kasaka nailed it, and it will be interesting to see what happens as we go into the next episode, as we only have a couple left. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 11 of Hibike Euphonium, if you've seen it, and if you thought it was rightfully chosen for Kasaka to have, you know, won the solo piece, being able to play it, that is to say, in the ensemble, whether or not you found it compelling, all of the history that went back to the previous term, as I say, with Yuko and Natsuki and, you know, Kaori and Asuka and all this kind of stuff, and bring on the next one is all I can say. That's where I'm left at the end, so otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.